Okay, imagine step off a long-haul flight. You're buzzing, ready for this huge adventure, right? A bike trip. Yep. Thailand, all the way to the UK. You land in Kathmandu, this ancient, amazing city.
Right, expecting maybe some culture shock finding your feet.
Exactly, but instead the air's thick with smoke. You hear what sounds like gunfire, and then you see it, the actual parliament building, fully engulfed in flames.
Wow, just straight into it.
Straight into it. And that's the reality we're diving into today. It's this political earthquake in Nepal. Yeah. So fast, so targeted, and organized in this completely modern way.
Yeah, it really kind of rewrites the playbook on modern revolutions, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. We're looking at a government basically overthrown almost overnight by these massive protests, led mostly by Gen Z.
And the way we're seeing it, the sources, it's not your typical news agency feed.
No, not at all.
Our main window is this raw, kind of chaotic, honestly terrifying footage from a British travel vlogger who just happened there.
Right. This guy, Harry, we hate the cold on YouTube. He was there for his bike trip. And he ends up documenting this absolutely pivotal moment in Nepal's history, just accidentally.
So we've got his boots on the ground view, minute by minute almost. And we're pairing that with some later analysis we found from online commentators, people like Nuxenor, who are piecing together the political side, the immediate aftermath.
Okay, so our mission for you listening is pretty specific today. We want to stitch together the timeline of this, from that social media ban that kicked it off.
A trigger. Yeah.
Through the street fighting, the violence, that really crucial moment, the military kind of switched side, or at least didn't side with the politicians.
Right.
All the way to how they elected new leadership, which involves, believe it or not, a massive Discord call.
It sounds wild. We need to unpack how that combination, that deep simmering anger about corruption and the system failing them, combined with this very digital, very Gen Z way of organizing.
Them to just topple the political elite so quickly, too.
Yeah. Short, sharp focus. We need to understand how Gen Z, using Discord and, Brick, managed to make the old guard just crumble in days. Okay, so let's get into the detonation itself. Harry lands in Kathmandu. He's thinking legit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shipping his bike, planning the next leg.
Standard traveler stuff.
Totally. But what he actually steps into is this explosion of anger that's been building for years, ignited by something very, very current.
Yeah, his timing incredible, or terrible, depending on how you look at it. The immediate spark, the catalyst, was the government suddenly deciding to block major social media. We're talking Facebook, X, Twitter, and YouTube.
Now, for some people, that might just seem like annoying censorship.
Right. Inconvenient.
But for Gen Z in Nepal, these platforms aren't just for fun. They're like critical infrastructure.
Absolutely critical. And that's a really important point. This isn't just about, sharing selfies or whatever. These platforms are where microeconomies happen, where people find remote work, where political organizing actually gets done, shutting them down. It felt targeted.
Like an economic attack almost. Aimed right at the young people.
Yeah, it was like the final straw. The immediate insult on top of this deep, festering wound of corruption and government failure that had been going on for 8 years.
So the reaction was immediate and violent. Harry's footage, from his perspective as just some guy who showed up, it's terrifying.
He talks about arriving, seeing all the ambulances, the fire trucks. Yeah. And at first just thinking, okay, big city bustle.
Right, normal chaos.
But then realizing, no, this is something else entirely. This is catastrophic.
He reports hearing from locals pretty quickly that the violence veer right from the start. Claims of up to 20 people shot.
Yeah, and directly to the head was a phrase he heard. Brutal.
Horrifying. The initial numbers confirmed were something like 17 killed just in Kathmandu in the first few days. Then it climbed to 19 across the region. Hundreds. This wasn't a protest that got a bit rowdy.
No, this was full-on street warfare from the get-go.
And the visuals he captures back that up. Not just sirens, but loud bangs, actual gunshots.
Right, not just rubber bullets or tear gas pops, real gunfire.
And destroyed vehicles everywhere. Burned out motorbike.
Which, he notes, people suspected were being used as IED, improvised explosive devices.
That ramps things up significantly.
It shows the level of escalation, right? And the fact that the political elite, hiding out in their compounds, couldn't just dismiss this or wait for it to fizzle out.
And it got personal for Harry fast. He's caught in the middle of it. He describes the sensory assault, hearing the shots, and then the tear gas hitting him.
Yeah, that awful stinging really gets in your eyes.
And in your throat. Smelling like wasabi or mustard. Oof.
He wasn't just filming from a safe distance. He's running, scrambling past riot police, past these huge crowds of really angry, really motivated protesters.
And what really comes through is how effective those protests were. They weren't just getting pushed around.
No, they were pushing back hard. His footage shows them actively driving the riot police back, taking control of significant parts in the city. That takes coordination.
Which brings us to the why. Okay, the social media ban was the spark, but what was the fuel? Why were they so ready to fight?
Corruption. Plain and simple, systemic corruption. Nepal consistently ranks as one of the most corrupt countries in Asia.
It's endemic, right? That's the perception.
It absolutely is. And reports back it up. You hear about these huge scandals, millions of dollars, politicians involved.
But nothing happens.
Exactly. Prosecutions are incredibly rare, so people just fundamentally believe the whole system is rigged for the political class. Doesn't matter which party's in charge.
And then you layer that cynicism on top of just crippling economic problems.
Yeah, the numbers are rough. Unemployment spiked to, 12.6%?
And that hits young people the hardest?
Disproportionately, yeah. Think about it. We're told many people there earn less than $5,000 a year.
Wow. Less than 5,000.
So when the few opportunities that exist dry up, what do? You leave.
Mass.
Huge. Over 740,000 Nepalists reportedly left just last year to find work somewhere else.
That dagger.
So the people protesting, they're holding signs saying, enough is enough. It's a rejection of the censorship, sure, but also a rejection of a decade of political failure.
Failure since they became a republic, right? After the monarch.
Exactly. There was all this hope then, hope for democracy, for development.
And it just didn't happen.
It didn't. What they got was instability, politicians constantly jogging for power, and new kinds of corruption just replacing the old royal ways.
So this Gen Z group, they grew up with this broken promise.
Precisely. They saw government after government fail to invest in their future education, jobs, basic infrastructure, while the politicians seemed to just get richer.
So when the police turned up to defend that system,
they were seen as the enemy.
Yeah.
As part of the problem.
And Harry's footage captured some of that dynamic too, didn't it? The police action.
Yeah, protesters were saying the police seemed more focused on getting politicians out safely.
Right, protecting their own.
Than helping injured protesters or civilians caught in the crossfire, which just reinforced that idea that the police were basically the private security for the corrupt elite.
And tactically, the protesters adapted incredibly.
They really did. They weren't passive. They used whatever they could find, bricks, debris, to physically push the police back.
And that detail about the tear gas.
Oh, yeah. Throwing the canisters back at the police lines.
Yeah.
Using the state's own weapons against them.
That shows some seriousness and organization.
It signals a shift, doesn't it? It's not just about making noise anymore. The time for just protesting felt over. This was becoming an insurrection.
Right, that moment of transition, when it goes from blocking streets to actively targeting and, burning government building, that's when you hear the language shift.
Definitely. It stops being called a protest. It's an insurrection, full scale.
And the targets chosen really underline that. It wasn't random smashing.
No, absolutely not. It was incredibly focused, laser focused on the symbols, the structures, and even the individuals of the political elite. This wasn't just frustration boiling over into vandalism.
This was targeted vengeance, designed to, rip out the roots of the corrupt system.
Yeah. Let's run through some of those targets because it's pretty shocking. The Parliament building.
Not just damaged, destroyed.
Destroyed by fire. Harry's footage shows that, the whole building is burned through, just gutted.
And the president's residence.
Also set on fire. President Ramchandra Paul's official residence.
And it went beyond building. The violence touched individuals in horrific ways.
It did. There's that really disturbing report about the wife of a former prime minister, Jala Nath Kanal.
Reportedly set on fire inside her own home.
Yeah. Now, one source later suggested she might have survived, but the fact that kind of extreme personal attack was even happening.
It shows the intensity, the desire to purge that class.
It really does. And then there's the story of the former finance minister, Prasad Paudel.
Right. Reportedly stripped naked, beaten by a mob.
And had to jump into a river to escape.
These aren't just attacks. They're symbolic acts, aren't they? Humiliation, payback against rulers seen as thieves.
Totally. And you can imagine the fear among the politicians who hadn't already fled. The sources say senior figures, ministers, the president
had to be choppered out.
Evacuated by helicopter because the crowds were closing in. There were even rumors of bounties on their heads.
Wow. Whether that was real or just revolutionary talk, the effect was...
Yeah, the political class was suddenly powerless. They couldn't govern. They couldn't even stay safely in the capital.
Okay, so here's where things get really, really interesting and very modern. For this to happen so fast, the state's security forces have to break.
Exactly. The police were clearly siding with the politicians, but the army...
They
did. And this is probably the single most critical turning point in the whole thing. The Nepalese army, historically, has tried to keep some distance from the day-to-day political corruption that tainted the police.
So what did they do? Initially, they helped the politicians, right?
Initially, yeah. They provided transport, got some besieged ministers out, but then they stopped.
Stopped helping or stopped.
They stopped actively suppressing the protest. They didn't deploy force to crush the crowds in the way the riot police were trying. They essentially stood back.
Why? What was the thinking there?
It's hard to know for sure, but the sources suggest a few things. Maybe the army leadership saw how deep the public anger went. Maybe they recognized the political bankruptcy of the government and the police.
Or maybe they just didn't want to fire on their own people, especially young people.
Could be all of the above. But the key outcome, according to reports, is that they effectively sided with the people, or at least against the police and politicians. That's the game changer. Because then you see reports and images of the police actually surrendering.
Surrendering to the protesters.
To the youth, yeah. So now you have this unified force, Gen Z, the general populace, with the military either implicitly backing them or at least not opposing them.
Against the police and the politicians.
Right. And that led to the government just collapsing, completely falling apart in a matter of hours or days. Almost all the senior ministers resigned. Poof, power vacuum.
Which the protesters immediately said they were filled.
But how? Okay, the physical fight is won on the streets. The old guard is gone or hiding. How do you organize what comes next?
Especially when the trigger was a social media ban.
Exactly. And this is where the digital side just takes over. It wasn't like old revolutions with pamphlets or secret meetings.
No.
This was instantly decentralized, technologically driven. Gen Z used the tools they know best.
Gaming platforms.
Basically, yeah. The sources are clear. They were coordinating the country's future, like the immediate next steps, in a massive Discord call.
A Discord call, not a constitutional convention, a voice chat.
Let's just pause on that. A voice chat with up to, reportedly, 9,995 participants.
That's nearly the max limit for a big Discord server voice channel, isn't it?
Pretty much. So how on earth do you run a country, even temporarily like that?
It seems chaotic, but maybe that's the point.
Well, Discord's actually pretty good for rapid, large-scale communication. You can have different channels, roles, ways to signal agreement or disagreement quickly. It allows for instant debate.
Okay, so maybe less about formal voting, more about reaching a quick consensus, like who do we trust right now? What's the first thing we need?
Exactly. It becomes this real-time digital town hall, bypassing all the old structures, the parties, the traditional media, the regional bosses. They could talk across the whole country instantly.
And that digital speed allowed them to not just demand change, but to actually start implementing it. Demanding a new government, demanding early elections, and starting the process right there.
The revolution wasn't just fought on the streets. It was coordinated, and its next steps decided in real-time voice chat. It's kind of mind-blowing.
What's almost as stunning as the speed of the collapse is the speed of the return to, well, not normalcy, but order.
Right. Once the government was gone and the military stepped in, not necessarily taking power for themselves, but establishing control,
the chaos just evaporates.
Almost instantly. Sources say it took the army only about 8 hours to get Kathmandu under control and impose martial law.
And Harry, our vlogger on the ground, he captures that shift perfectly. One day he's dodging bullets.
Yeah.
The next, he's noting the city is peaceful now. He adds, not compromise, but peace. And imposed
by a strict military curfew. Everything shut down. Shops, transport, petrol stations, schools, total lockdown.
He described the streets, usually packed, as almost a ghost town.
Yeah, with military patrols, barbed wire checkpoint, proper martial law, as he put it.
Which suggests maybe that the public kind of accepted this, at least temporarily, better than the street fighting and definitely better than the government they just kicked out.
Seems likely. A necessary measure to stop the bleeding, perhaps.
But here's the fascinating bit. The physical lockdown didn't stop the digital organization.
No, the Discord call apparently kept going, or at least the momentum from it did. The Gen Z organizers weren't silenced by the curfew. They used that digital consensus they'd built.
To fill the power vacuum, to actually pick a leader.
And this is the truly historic part. Sushila was sworn in as Nepal's interim prime minister.
Elected how?
Elected via that massive Discord.
Oh, that's unprecedented. A prime minister chosen by voice chat consent during...
Symbolically, practically, it's a whole new model.
It raises so many questions, though, like legitimacy, sustainability. Is this just a revolutionary placeholder?
The sources suggest it was seen as exactly that, an interim measure. She was someone acceptable to that broad digital consensus, tasked with stabilizing things and, crucially, paving the way for proper democratic elections.
So they were already thinking ahead.
Apparently so. They were reportedly discussing other names like Balin for future elections. So it wasn't just about tearing down. There was a plan, however improvised, for building something new.
But let's talk about the discipline of the movement again, because this is crucial. We see riots elsewhere, and often it descends.
All the time. Chaos takes over. People grab what they can.
But that didn't happen here. Despite the incredible violence, the burning buildings, the sheer anger.
Virtually no looting of civilian businesses.
Harry the vlogger makes a point of this. He says the traffic police offices, symbols of petty bureaucracy and maybe corruption, were absolutely smashed to bits. Obliterated.
Right.
but the shop's right untouched. Fine.
That focus is incredible. It tells you so much about their motivation.
It wasn't just mindless destruction.
No, it wasn't a mob driven by hunger or pure anarchy. It was targeted. It was systemic.
Yeah.
Burn the parliament, smash the police station, the symbols of oppression, but protect your neighbor's shop, protect the community's assets.
Harry even mentioned moments where protesters were sharing water, celebrating together, looking out for each other amidst the violence.
It suggests a deep sense of community solidarity underpinning the political.
Yeah, it's this powerful contrast. Extreme, focused political violence alongside respect for private property and communal order. They weren't trying to destroy society, they were trying to purify it.
Protesting a system that keeps people dirt poor, earning less than $5,000 a year, but not by robbing the local store owner. It's a different kind of uprising.
Okay, let's bring it back to Harry, our accidental correspondent, the guy who just wanted to ship his motorbike to Dubai.
Yeah, poor guy, or lucky guy. Depends on your definition of adventure, I suppose.
He ends up filming, as he put it, the most monumental moment in Nepali.
And his footage, raw, shaky, filmed, while literally running from tear gas, just exploded online.
Gave the world this completely unfiltered view. One video hit, 24 million?
Yeah, insane numbers. Overnight, he goes from being this niche travel vlogger to being kind of central to how the world is seeing this unfold.
And locally, this had a really weird, interesting effect. He became famous.
Instantly recognized. People were stopping him on the street.
Asking for selfies, right. And apparently laughing about his running in the videos.
Yeah, teasing him like the way you ran and giving him nicknames.
Harry Potter or The Boy Who Lived. That's quite...
It shows how they saw him, though. Not as some intrusive foreign journalist, but as this relatable guy who stumbled into their struggle and showed it on a friendly face.
And the warmth towards him was genuine.
Absolutely. He talks about incredible kindness, people refusing to let him pay for food, omelet, tea.
Saying things like, "You are in our country, I'm glad you are here."
Yeah, basically thanking him for bearing witness, maybe, and sharing their story.
They gave him gifts, too. Small thing. Tokens of appreciation.
A Nepali flag, a little religious pendant, Ganesha or Buddha, and even a tiny little replica helmet for his bike.
That's sweet. And then the ultimate compliment.
Yeah. The half-joking online campaign, make Harry the next foreign minister.
Shows how much they... But his perspective is also useful for seeing how...
Right. After the chaos, then the martial law, he watched the city come back to life surprisingly quick.
Streets bustling again, people getting back to business.
But the scars remain. The government buildings, the police stations, still charred ruin. Potent reminder.
He even ended up doing a local podcast appearance, which is pretty meta.
And he made a point of visiting temples and noting that the historical sites, the cultural heritage, was deliberately protected throughout the chaos, untouched.
But his journey as the citizen journalist hit a snag, which highlights another modern.
Yeah, that YouTube takedown. His main viral video, the one with millions of views detailing the core events.
Suddenly.
Not for political reasons, apparently, but for a copyright.
From who?
Some company called Culture Machine, which made no sense to Harry.
Because there was no music.
Exactly. He and his friends insisted the only audio was, fire crackling, crowds chanting, tear gas canisters popping, no background track.
So a bogus or a mistake or something else.
It's hard to say for sure, but it highlights a real vulnerability, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even if the revolution is organized decentrally, the platforms used to share the story are still sent.
And liable to automated systems or potentially malicious claims that can just erase crucial evidence.
Right. A company abusing the copyright system, intentionally or not, could effectively censor vital footage of a major world event.
Thankfully, he got it resolved, right? The video went back up.
Yeah, eventually. But it's a good reminder. Getting the raw truth out is one challenge. Keeping it out there is another. Even in the digital age. #tagoutro. So wrapping this up, what this deep dive really shows us is this incredibly distinct, very modern blueprint for political upheaval.
Yeah, it's this potent mix. You've got the deep, simmering public rage against corruption, real grinding corruption that affects daily life, keeps people poor, drives them out of the country.
And you combine that with this hyper-modern, digitally native way of organizing, using tools like Discord to completely sidestep the old political machine.
And the result was just fast, incredibly fast and focused,
Yeah.
Short, sharp, and successful because the people on the street showed this remarkable discipline.
Right. That distinction is key. They protected civilian life and property while surgically dismantling the symbols of state failure. It was about systemic change, not just chaos.
They made the existing power structure, police, politicians, even state media HQs irrelevant, almost
rendered obsolete by civilian action, crucially backed by the military choosing not to intervene. And the peak of that, choosing and swearing in an interim PM based on consensus reached in a voice chat.
It just sounds like science fiction, but it happened.
It did. Which leads us to the big question we want to leave you, the listener, with.
Okay.
In a world where communication is instant, global, and tools for mass organization are readily available, Discord, TikTok, Whatever comes next, has the actual barrier to entry for revolution been permanently lowered?
Meaning, is what we saw in Nepal, this rapid, digitally organized overthrow, the immediate replacement of leadership via online consensus, is that the new template, the new reality for populations everywhere who feel trapped by corrupt or failed systems?
Is this the future of how power shifts? Something to definitely keep in mind as you watch other global events unfold.